There's different ways where the unfolding of that leadership essence happens, and one of the things that I've seen at Transfield Services is sometimes it's about people's understanding of what is required of them as leaders. So I'll give you an example of a story around that. Essentially, we saw leaders go from believing that their role was one thing, which was usually I'm an engineer, I'm a technical expert, my role is to fix technical problems, to dig holes, to create and construct buildings, etc. To, after these interventions, these systemic interventions using tools like the TLC, people beginning to see, actually, I have a role here as a change leader. So I have a technical role as an engineer, but in addition to that role, I have a change leader role where my job is to enact this strategy. It's not going to happen without me. It's not somebody else's job, it is my job. So just by virtue of the fact that they realized it was their role and they were in a change leadership role, we started to see the unfolding of leadership behaviors that before that hadn't been present. When I think about the word extraordinary, and I think back on my career, I can probably count on one hand the number of extraordinary leaders I've worked with, because they are very rare. But one does come to mind in particular. He had that ability to be fully present with the person that he was with. And the meaning that he gave to situations, he could take that meta perspective and think about his thinking. He could question his assumptions. He could look through multiple lenses. I think that was the thing about him. He could take multiple perspectives. He didn't assume that his view of the world and his set of assumptions were another person's set of assumptions. He could anticipate that they had a different lens through which they were seeing the world, and he could interrogate what that was. So he didn't stand in role of giving solutions. He stood in role of asking questions and establishing what were the multiple realities, what was truly going on in his system. And because he spent the time doing that, then his solutions were actually the solutions to the real problems, because what I've found with ordinary leaders, or as opposed to extraordinary leaders, is they often solve the problems that they know how to solve, or that they've been trained technically to solve, or that are easy to solve. But extraordinary leaders solve the problems that are really there in the organisation, and they're often the tricky, muddy, complex problems around adaptive shifts that need to be made, mindset and behavioural shifts. They go there, they don't avoid those, and that was, in my experience, what he was able to do, was interrogate what was needed and go to the heart of what was really going on and solve the problems that needed to be solved.